Hey, welcome to Mike's Trains, and thanks for joining me for another video. Um, let's get right into this. So last week we laid down this whole parking lot, and I showed you, this building here. This has all been redone now. I wanted to start with this. This is going to be the new building that's going to go here, rather than just grass and all. We'll dirt parking lot this and get that all done. It is lit. I have inside LEDs and then one outside in the overhang here that lights up the sidewalk. So this one is all done. So let's take a look at what we're going to do today. So today we're going to work on getting this area here done, this area here, and I want to finish this grade crossing. I want to take care of this area here on both sides of the road. And then where this all overhangs, remember I said I didn't glue this down south, see this still moves. I want to finish the transition that goes from the edge of this styrene sheet down onto the actual layout. We're going to finish that, and I want to go all the way around to get that all blended in just fine. And I just wanted to, the other thing I wanted to just stress out here is this dirt road that's right here. I'm going to keep this. This has to stay because this goes into the drop down bridge that goes right here. And if you remember past videos, when I built that, there's a swimming area, there's a waterfall and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. And this is the road that connects that drop down bridge with the rest of the layout. So I need to keep this. So that's what we're looking at now. But let's go ahead and start filling all of this stuff here right now. And for that, what I have is some Sculptamold, which is right here. Let's see. And you can see I have it mixed fairly thick. It's more like a putty than anything else. Alright. And this is what I'm going to use to fill all that. So we're going to start by getting some of this out. And we're going to put it right in here. Now, unfortunately, I seem to have misplaced my putty knife. So I dug out a piece of styrene, and I'm going to use that instead. So all I want to do is I want to keep this off the tracks, and I want to blend this right into what's already there. We want to keep this flat. And if you don't remember what was there, what was there was a little knoll, like a small hill. It was a space that I didn't really know what to do with, and now I know what I need to do. For this road, to get this road glued in, see, this is not glued in. If you remember from the last video, I didn't do anything with that. I'm going to put some Sculptamold underneath this. And we're just going to push that down into place because I want a little bit of support underneath it so that it doesn't ever collapse. Now there will end up being a little white residue on top of there when this dries, but we're not going to be too concerned with it because this is all water based, it'll just wash right off. We'll just continue right around like this. Okay, so I finished going all the way around. I didn't film the whole thing because it's really kind of boring. But what I did was I went around, you see my fingers are still all messed up here. And then once it starts to harden, you can come around with your fingers and kind of blend that in a little bit better, right? So like I'm doing right here. And that stuff will all go down and it'll blend in nicely. So you can see where we took care of the road here. This part here has all been, filled in. Okay, so all of this has had a chance to dry. Everything around, I've done everything, it's all dried up, and I went over all of this stuff lightly with sandpaper just to smooth down any highs and any high spots that are in there. I don't want any of that stuff to be high. And I also took some time and I added Sidewalk here. Now it's not glued in. I was kind of playing with it to see. This is old Sidewalk that I had, and I'm going to reuse it in here. And I'm only going to come down to here with the Sidewalk. I'm not going to continue it all the way down through the rest of this. I'm going to stop it right here. But it is going to go up here, across the tracks, and into the city area, which will be over there. I've also repainted this road right here, so everything's a match now to this road color. It looks a little bit darker, only because my base color was more of a gray than this was white when I redid that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint all this white brown, okay, all the way around. So all of this white everywhere. So let me go ahead and get that painted, and then we'll come back. Alright, so everything's painted. I'm not going to worry about whether it's dry or not. We don't really care if it's totally dried. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put down these sidewalks, and I'm not going to bother with curbing the edges here. I'll come back with some concrete colored paint, and I'll just touch up the edges afterwards. There's a curb on the outer edge here already, so I'm just going to go with these. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them, but I want to have a sidewalk there. So I'm just going to take some super glue here, and I'm going to run a few dots of it down here. You don't need to coat it, but like that. You want enough on there to hold it down, but not enough to squeeze out from underneath it. Right here. So we're going to cover up the road edge like that. And then we're going to leave a little bit of reveal on the road on the other side of the white line. And that's going to cover up this border edge here that we came across, you know, here. It's going to cover up that edge nicely. So we're going to set that down in there like that. Make sure that's good and down, and we'll move on to the next one right here. Actually, this time I'm going to go this way. Like that. And we'll set this one in there. Same type of reveal. Again, only by eye. I'm not going to measure it out. It's just easier. Whatever looks good by eye is what I'm doing, as far as I'm following the reveal along the line to keep it the same. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to push this down. So that's how that's going to go. So let me finish these up, and then we'll start the next phase of this whole thing. Alright, so let's start with the paint, with the glue. We'll wet the brush, a little bit of glue on the brush. I find it easier for bigger areas just to brush on the glue. So just being careful. I mean, you can tape this off, but I think I'm okay with my hands. The bit of shaking that I do, I think it's good enough. And we're just going to cover the whole area, everything that's brown. And the only reason we paint everything brown is that if you miss some area, it won't show white. You know, that's your big enemy, is anything showing as white. So we get a good coating on there, like that. Put the brush away, glue in the water. What I have here, this is some dirt I dug up in the backyard, and I sifted it out, and it makes a pretty good dirt for all of this as a good base. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with that, and we're going to sprinkle that on over the whole thing. I'm not going to worry too much about it getting on the parking lots. We'll sweep that away later. But you want to cover all of this area. Okay, that's enough there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a brush and I'm going to push all that around and going to make sure that everything gets covered. Okay, so we bring this and just brush this all around everything that we glued up. See? And that's what we end up with. It's going to be like that. And then as far as the parking lot itself, showing the brown dirt on it, don't really care. See, so I missed a spot right there. So we can go back and just hit that small spot. Now, that's not exactly where I want it. It went out a little further than I would like, so I'm just going to take this and bring it out like that. Now a little bit will still stick to that, but I can clean that off. So now we take our brush back, go right over it. Just like that. See? So lightly brush, we're going to pull all of this extra dirt, kind of like real excavating. We want to pull off all the loose dirt. Now some people can, I suppose you could vacuum it off, but I tend to, bigger areas like this, I tend to like to do, especially when I've got more area to do. And I think the dirt on the tar kind of dirties things up nicely. Just kind of adds a little bit of weathering, I think. Okay, so we're like that now. So now what I want to do is, there's a couple things you can do. You can use isopropyl alcohol, which is rubbing alcohol, and a pipette, which I'm going to go get. Or you can use, if you don't want to, or don't have the rubbing alcohol, you can take dishwashing liquid and get a jug of water and put like a drop of dishwashing liquid into it and mix that up, and that works the same way. Okay, so what I have is I have a pipette here. Now I buy these on Amazon. I bought a pack of, I don't know, 10 or 15,000 for a few dollars. And then I have 70% alcohol. And all I'm going to do is I want to wet everything down with this. And the reason for this is so that the water, when you put your glue down on top of all of this, it doesn't just sit on the top of the dirt. The alcohol allows it to absorb into what you're doing. And you can see the alcohol just spreading, and that's what we want. And it's also going to bring the glue up. So that should be good. That'll all spread around and it'll wet everything down. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, now we can start with the grass. And I'm going to start with the green, the darker of the colors. And I'm just going to sprinkle that all over this. I want to get a fairly decent coating on it. Now you can shake it from the can, you can do pretty much whatever, however it works for you. There's no right way or wrong way to get this on here. Now I'm going to go over it with this lighter one. And you want to use more than one color because it just adds to the realism. If you just stick with one color, it's not going to look right. And if you notice, I'm not totally covering the lower layer, making it so that the darker will show through. Okay. I'm going to call that done. Now, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to go a little step further on any of this, so I'm going to take all of this grass that's extra, okay? And I'm going to pull all this far away from the parking lot, all this grass and dirt, and then this stuff we're just going to push it up into so that it's nice and cleaned off. Because the next step will glue down anything loose. And then this sidewalk I can come back and clean up later. This is why I say if it makes you more comfortable, you can always tape this off and then not have to do this, what I'm doing here. This is just what I've gotten used to. Okay, so we're pretty clean there. So now we're going to take scenic cement. So I don't actually use scenic cement. This is the bottle that scenic cement comes in. I don't use it because it's too expensive. I use too much of it. And what I use is the white glue, and I just water it down a lot. So we're going to drop this on top very carefully so it doesn't spread out too far into the parking lot. And this is what's going to hold all our grass in place, as well as we need this for the next step. So the next thing I want to do with this is I would like to add some static grass. Now in the front half I'm going to leave this normal, but down towards the back and out this way, that wouldn't be so much mowed as much as the front stuff facing the road and whatever's readily available to be seen. So let me get some static grass and we'll add that in there. So this is the static grass I have. I have different lengths, okay? I have some really long ones and then I have some short ones in all different colors. So the short ones, I'm going to run them all through this area. These are the short ones. They're about 2 millimeters long. This is my static grass applicator. Now I'm not going to tell you what it is. I made it myself. If you want to make one, you can go on YouTube or wherever. There are tons of tutorials on how to do it. I'm just going to take this and fill up the hopper like this. Okay, so you can see it all in the hopper here. It's all there. So now we're going to move these out of the way and we're going to hit this front half. First I need to stick this down. I'm going to stick it right through here. This is a pin I made. It's like a heavier nail. And it just sticks into hopefully sticks into things. It's a little tough on wood. When it's foam, it works very easily. Okay. Now we're just going to take this and we're just going to start hitting this on here. Now in this, I'm going to mix in a little bit of this medium length. I want to say this is probably about twice the length of the other one, so it's probably around 4 millimeter. And we're going to hit it a little bit more towards the back. So let's say they didn't cut that grass as often. And I'm not going to take out the original one. I want all that to stay in there. I'm going to kind of mix it up. Okay, so now we've got all that. Now this extra here, because now you've got two different kinds together, I'm going to take this and pour it into a cup, right? Because that's still good grass. It's just mixed up with different lengths. Now I'm going to take some of this kind of yellowy, dead colored grass, and I'm gonna mix and put some of this down along the tracks in the back. So now you can see we have all very tall grass down in the back end until you get up to the front side here. So let's see if I can get you in there. So you can kind of see how the grass changes color. Okay. Now when this dries, I can come in and I can vacuum up all the extra, and then whatever's left is what's left. And it'll look really good. So I only did one spot of this. I'm not going to do the whole thing all at once because it's too much for a video, but for a small area, that's how it's going to go. And just, this is how I'm going to do all the rest of this. So that's pretty much it. That's how it's going to get done. And then on top of that, the building's a little bare looking, right? Down the side of the shopping mall. Down the side of the shopping mall is a little bit bare. So we can take some of these bushes here. We got some of this clump stuff, okay? Clump foliage. And I can take some of this and then run this down the side as well. Like that. Alright, you don't want to do too much. And then we can take our white glue again, right here. And then I'm just going to top those off with some white glue and let that soak through there, and it'll hold everything down. And that is pretty much it. And then later on we'll get into the finer details of how we're going to finish this off. I showed you in the past there's going to be a fence that goes along here like this. Alright. So all that stuff still has to get done, but for the most part that's pretty much it. That's how it's going to get done. I will do all the rest of this all the same way. And that's it. So anyway, that's going to be it for this week, I think. Let's see if we can back this up. There we go. Yeah, so that's going to be it for this week. I think we're going to call it a day. If you're just finding me for the first time, please, by all means, subscribe to my channel. Love to have you along. And if you are watching this and you did make it this far, please like and share my videos. Love to have people seeing what I'm doing. So anyway, until next time, happy modeling.